Friends, today I will be discussing the MCQs of second paper in physiology supplementary examination conducted by Dr. NTRUHS on 18th of May 2022. This question paper taken from set A, I have not changed the spellings or grammatical things printed in the question paper, and I am discussing these questions with a reference for the answer. Density of sodium channels is maximum at A, surface of myelin, B, soma, C, nodes of Ranvier, D, dendrite. The sodium channels are distributed throughout the neuron. Their distribution is maximum at the node of Ranvier. So the answer to this question is option C, nodes of Ranvier. Now I read this paragraph taken from Genong's review regarding or in support of this answer. The number of sodium channels per square micrometer of the membrane in myelinated mammalian neurons has been estimated to be 50 to 75 in the cell body, that is in soma, 350 to 500 in the initial segment, though initial segment is not here, less than 25 on the surface of the myelin, less than 25 per square micrometer, 2000 to 12,000 channels, sodium channels at the nodes of Ranvier. You can see the maximal distribution, and 20 to 75 channels at the axon terminal. Answer for this response is option C, nodes of Ranvier. Question number 2. Action potential. A does not show all or none phenomena. B does not show decremental response. C can be summated. D requires subthreshold stimulus. Action potential is a all or none response. Hence, option A is not a correct response. Action potential cannot be summated because it is an all or none response. It cannot be submitted. It cannot be summated because there is a refractoriness and a refractory period, and since it is reaching the peak, and over that we cannot, because it will reach up to the level of the sodium equilibrium potentials. Beyond that it cannot exceed. So that means it cannot be submitted. It is maximal. That's a part of the all-or-none response. Then the action potential happens only critical level of voltage is achieved. That means when it becomes a threshold stimulus. So in subthreshold stimulus, there are electrotonic potentials happening, but not the action potential. Subthreshold stimulus do not open the sodium channel, the voltage gated sodium channel. Hence, the option D is not correct. A is not correct. C is not correct. D is not correct. I am not excluding action potential do not show decremental response, because action potential once occurring, any action potential occurring in series, because most of our coding of the impulses is in the frequency of the action potentials, and all these action potentials are of the same height. There is no decrement, only the frequency of the action potential alters. So the answer to this question, correct response is B, does not show decremental response. So it is does not show decremental response. and it is you can see the expression potential properties on page 85 and 86 of the Genomes review. Next question, question number 3. All of the following are true for denervation hypersensitivity except A, seen in smooth muscles, B, the ACH receptors appears all over sarcolemma, C, plasma noradrenaline level decreases in noradrenergic neuron denervation, D, plasma ACH level decreases in cholinergic neuron denervation. This is a controversial question because this information is not available in Genome or Guyton. I searched even in the Samson Wright and the Candle's textbook of neuroscience. Only after making a thorough search, I could figure out some part of it has been mentioned in G.K. Paul's textbook of physiology. However, I have reservations about the statements he has made in his textbook because I wanted a reference for the statement. Now, coming back, so for me, all answers appear correct. It is seen in smooth muscles, so hypersensitivity is seen in smooth muscles. The ACH receptors appear all over the sarcolemma of the myotubes. The plasma noradrenaline level decreases in noradrenergic neuron denervation. That may be quite a possibility. And plasma ACH level decreases in cholinergic neuron. However, going back with the reference of the G.K. Paul, he mentions that plasma noradrenaline level increases because there is no uptake of noradrenaline or norepinephrine, hence the plasma level increases. So that is his explanation, and that is there in that book. And if the university, Dr. NTR University, takes up this question, maybe I would give whatever their choice. But I personally feel that this is a controversial question. Going to question, hence I keep myself reserved with the correct answer, correct response, and it is left to the NTR University. Question number 4. The length of muscle at which it develops maximal isometric active tension. It's called optimal length. However, our muscles are attached to the bone at optimal length in rest. That means a resting attachment. So the answer is resting length, which is equal to optimum length in case of the muscle, where optimum size of the sarcomere, maybe the sarcomere size is around 2 microns, 2.1 microns or something like that, it is getting attached. Sarcomere size is that. So length of the muscle at which it develops maximal isometric active tension is called A, initial length, B, resting length, C, maximal length, D, active length. Initial length is not correct. Maximal length is not correct. In the maximal length, the tension decreases. The active length, I don't know what is that active length. So resting length at which the length at which the sarcomere is around 2 micron or so, and there is a maximal cross-bridge interaction, and where it develops a maximal isometric active tension. The option B is a correct response. You can find this thing in Guyton and Hall textbook of medical physiology. Next question, question number 5. Most distinguishing feature between skeletal muscle and a smooth muscle is A, troponin, B, tropomyosin, C, myosin, D, actin. The Responses, I'm not happy or comfortable with the responses. Rather, there would have been another word attached with these things. So if I were to frame this question, the most distinguishing feature between the skeletal muscle and the smooth muscle is A, troponin is absent, tropomyosin is absent, myosin is absent, actin is absent. So now the option is troponin is absent in smooth muscle. That is the distinguishing feature, and you can see this response. The smooth muscle also contains tropomyosin, but troponin appears to be absent. Now, so it is there in the Genome's Review of Medical Physiology, page 109. Now, the option A is a correct response. However, I feel that such a type of vague information, because if I read this thing again, smooth muscle also contains tropomyosin, but troponin appears to be absent. The author is not confident. The genome is not confident, or there is no substantiative evidences. Under such circumstances, I request the university authorities or controller of examination to give a clear-cut answers, not a vague answer. This vague answer is open for research. Anyway, since it is there in the textbook, I will take option A as a correct response. Question number 6. Which of the following is not true about the testis? Option A, present in a scrotal sac to have a temperature less than body temperature. Option A appears to be true, because the question is not true. Option A is true about the testis. B, contraction of dartos muscle elevates testis. This is also true. Pempiniform plexus of the blood vessels have a countercurrent system to maintain the temperature of testis. That is also true statement. And spermatic arteries supplying a blood to testis originate from internal iliac artery. So option D is the answer for this question, because it is not true. Option D is not true, hence it is the answer. So as you know, the spermatic arteries are internal spermatic artery. Perhaps it is not spermatic artery, it is internal spermatic artery or a testicular artery, originate from the abdominal iliac. Here, what does mean? Originate from the internal iliac artery, hence it is a wrong answer. And it's basically an anatomy question. Because in none of the textbooks I searched all the textbooks of physiology where they did not mention about the origin of the spermatic artery. So it's the anatomy questions. I have to go back to the anatomy books and look for this internal spermatic artery and the testicular artery, which originates from the abdominal iliac. Hence, question number 6 is again can be contested because it is not a physiological question. It has an answer in the anatomy books. Question number 7. Ovulation in women with a normal health and cycle occurs at option A, 14 days prior to start of menstrual bleeding. Option B, just before LH surge. Option C, just after corpus luteal maturation. Option D, during progesterone rise. The ovulation occurs 9 hours after LH surge. So then it is not a correct response. Option B is not a correct response. Just after corpus luteal maturation. Corpus luteal maturation is that after ovulation, it forms a corpus luteum, and which matures. So this is long after. It is a Graafian follicle maturation. It's a Graafian follicle maturation where it ruptures. So it is not true. Option C is not true. During progesterone rise, the progesterone start rising only after the formation of a corpus luteum, after the release of ovum, that is after ovulation. So this is also not true. B, C, D are not true. And if you are coming back under understanding the concept of the ovulation, it is 14 days prior to start of menstrual bleeding. In the menstrual cycle, the initial part, the proliferative part, or a follicular part is a variable part. Whereas luteal part or secretory part is a fixed part because it depends upon the lifespan of the corpus luteum. After ovulation, the corpus luteum is formed. Corpus luteum waits for the stimulus, for the gonadotropins to stimulate it. And these gonadotropins usually come from the fertilized ova. If not, the corpus luteum regresses, degenerates, and disintegrates. So this has a particular time. This time takes, and the withdrawal bleeding takes place. That is the bleeding. So that means the entire thing is 14 days. So the answer to this question is 14 days prior to start of menstrual bleeding. If I were to suppose here what they have mentioned, ovulation in a woman with a normal health and cycle occurs at option A is a correct response, 14 days prior to the start of menstrual bleeding. However, now if I were to reframe this question, ovulation in a woman with a normal health and a cycle of 35 days, then what should be the answer? It's again 14 days prior to the start of the menstrual. Whatever the day cycle, so 14 days, that means it is on 21st day the ovulation takes place in a 35-day cycle. Or if it is, say for example, if it is a 30 days, it is the 16th day. Like that, you can calculate. Going to question number 8. Which of the following is not true about cardiovascular maternal changes in pregnancy? A, the stroke volume increases. Yes, in pregnancy, the blood volume increases. The blood volume may increase the greater venous return, and the stroke volume may increase. Diastolic pressure increases. The diastolic pressure rather falls. Okay, it decreases. So that means option B is the correct response. Systolic pressure increases. I will come back to this controversy. The heart rate increases. Heart rate increases. The stroke volume increases. It is said that systolic pressure decreases. In Samson Wright, it is mentioned that systolic and diastolic pressure both are decreased. Systolic and diastolic pressure both are decreased. The decrease of diastolic pressure is much greater than systolic pressure. This is the statement given in Samson Wright's Applied Physiology. You can refer to page 548 of this 1974 edition. However, somebody want to put a question mark, both B and C may be correct. Because which of the following is not true? Not true. Diastolic pressure increase is not true. Systolic pressure increase is not true. Both of them have a issue, but however, the diastolic pressure increase is totally not understandable. Okay, so now I have just reserved myself in putting option B, but if you want to contest, you can contest for both B and C. Now, question number 9. Which of the following is the main hormone for milk synthesis and secretion? Well, one can very well say that it must be prolactin. Option D, option C, prolactin. We come back here, estrogen increases the duct formation in the mammary gland. Oxytocin releases the milk produced. The progesterone adds the alveolar component, and the prolactin is adding to the milk to the alveolar component, that is synthesis and secretion. So this is prolactin. So options C, the prolactin is a correct response, and you can find this thing in page 85 of the Geiger and Hall textbook of physiology, or you can see it in the title. Now, moving on to question number 10, which is the best female contraceptive method after childbirth, but desirous of further deliveries? That means the contraceptive method, which is not permanent, reversible contraceptive method. Now, understanding this particular term, intrauterine device, option A, or B, contraceptive pills, C, tubectomy, D, diaphragms. Now, option C, tubectomy, is out of question because desirous of further deliveries. That's fine. That means tubectomy is not the answer. Now, diaphragms usually best female contraceptive. Diaphragms may have more failures, contraceptive failures. No, it's not a good one. Oral contraceptive pills, there may be complications and not taking the pill and the complications associated with the pills, the drug reactions associated with the pills. Hence, oral contraceptive pills may not be the correct choice. The intrauterine device is the right choice. Intrauterine device is the right choice. So now, this I have not referred to any of the books, and it is just you can go back and see the community medicine, the park by park. You can just check it, and you will find this information. So option A, intrauterine device, is the correct response. Now, question number 11. Which cell in CNS lay myelin sheath? A. The myelin sheath in the peripheral nervous system is made by the Schwann cells. In the central nervous system is by the oligodendrocytes. Option B is the correct response. The basket cells, stellate cells are part of the cells in the cerebellum. Astrocytes are astroglial cells. Basket cells and stellate cells are neuronal cells. Astrocytes are glial cells. So the option B, oligodendrocyte, is the correct response. Question number 12. The dorsal root of spinal cord is sensory and ventral root is motor. This is called A. Weber-Fechner law. Weber-Fechner law relates with the strength-response relationship. Strength and response relationship, that is a logarithmic function. So it's not a correct response. Option B, the Mueller's doctrine. Mueller's doctrine states that if everything travels in a specific nerve energy, so that means when you stimulate the nerve energy or nerve impulses are generated in the nerve, that is the Mueller's doctrine. Rexton-Laminar principle is the distribution of the gray matter in a layers in the spinal cord. So that is the Rex appearance. So that's not the response. So it is the Bell-Megendi law. The correct response is option C, Bell-Megendi law. Dorsal root of the spinal cord is sensory and ventral root is motor. Which of the following is a specific nucleus of thalamus? A. Ventral posterolateral. B. Midline. C. Intralaminar. D. Centromedial. Ventral posterolateral is a specific nuclei of the thalamus, which carries the somatosensory information to the cortex. So this somatosensory information is relayed here, and from here thalamocortical projections arise. So that means option A is the correct response. Let us see about this thing. So option A, ventral posterolateral, and this figure you can just see that we have a midline. This is a midline nucleus. Midline nucleus is a non-specific nucleus that merges with the reticular nucleus. Intralaminar nucleus. This is the internal laminar, intralaminar. So in the laminar, you have the nucleus. That is also not, it's a non-specific nucleus which goes to the into all the range of the all the cortices of the cerebral cortex. Centromedian nucleus. This is central. This is a median nucleus. Centromedian nucleus is here. This is also a non-specific nucleus. So the correct response is option A, ventral posterolateral nucleus. This is the ventral posterolateral nucleus. All the somatosensory information from the body are taken, are arriving here or relayed here in the VPR. Going on to question number 14. Which of the following is not true about the stretch reflex? Also called as myotatic reflex, option A. Option B, afferent is 1B fiber. Option C, monosynaptic reflex. Option D, branch of afferent terminates on inhibitory interneuron. Option A, also, yes, the stretch reflex is also called a myotatic stretch reflex. So this is a true statement. And option C, monosynaptic. Yes, myotatic stretch reflex is a monosynaptic reflex. This is also true. And option D, a branch of the afferent terminal here is 1A fiber. 1A fiber makes a synaptic contact with the motor neurons of the same muscles. Along that side, a collateral goes to the interneuron to inhibit the opposite group of muscles. For that's called a reciprocal innervation, so that when flexor is contracting, the extensor should relax to bring about the contraction or to bring about the changes. So that means it is the inverse, or that means it is trying to make a reciprocal these things, so that the other opposite group of muscles are inhibited. So the correct response is, if you are looking at afferent 1B fiber, so 1B fibers are not carried by the stretch reflex. Stretch reflex is carried by the 1A fiber. So hence option B is the correct response. The 1B fibers carry the Golgi tendon organs, not the intrafusal fibers, Golgi tendon organs. Here you can see it's called a myotatic stretch reflex. This is 1A fiber coming here, making a synaptic contact with the same group of muscles here. And here it is giving a collateral. This is an interneuron. This is the opposite group of muscles supplying them. So it relaxes this or inhibits this, it contracts this, achieves the target. And this is a classical stretch reflex. It happens with all the tendon reflexes. Question number 15. Which of the following is the major neurotransmitter in nigrostriatal pathway? Definitely, everybody would say dopamine. Nigrostriatal pathway is dopaminergic. So the answer is option A, dopamine. It is not norepinephrine or noradrenaline. It's not acetylcholine. It's not serotonin. Option A is the correct response, or dopamine is the correct response. Question number 16. Purkinje cells of the cerebellum end on. If you are looking at the cerebellum, the Purkinje cells give their output, because the main output, because it has a large dendritic tree and one axon. This axon goes to the deep cerebellar nuclei. It talks to deep cerebellar nuclei, or it inhibits the deep cerebellar nuclei, where it releases GABA. So now you can just, after giving that, so that means option C is the correct response, deep cerebellar nuclei. It is not an extrapyramidal system, Purkinje cells. It does not give to the cranial nuclei. No, it will not give to the cerebral cortex. Because if it has to go to the deep cerebral, then from the deep cerebellar nuclei, it goes to the cortex, it goes to the cranial nuclei, it goes to the extrapyramidal system, whatever through major pathways, but deep cerebellar nuclei are the main. So the answer is C, deep cerebellar nuclei. Question number 17. Which of the following is not a component of vestibular apparatus? Very simple question. The vestibular apparatus consists of semicircular canals, utricle, and sacral. So that means option A, yes, it is part of the vestibular apparatus. Option B, it's a part of the vestibular apparatus. Option D. Whereas cochlea is not a vestibular apparatus, it is a cochlear auditory component, the cochlear component of the vestibular cochlea. So that is the option C is the correct response. Option C is the correct response in this case, question number 17. Going to question number 18. All except one are under the control of hypothalamus. All except one are under the control of hypothalamus. So, option A, increase in heart rate during exercise. Option B, food intake. Option C, pituitary hormone, hypophyseal regulation. Option D, temperature regulation. It sounds wonderful that yes, hypothalamus controls food intake, pituitary hormone secretions, and the temperature regulation. So the increase in heart rate during exercise is also controlled by hypothalamus. Now I'm telling you, as I start the exercise, there is an anticipatory response. This anticipatory response comes from the cortex. That's the motor cortex. And once the motor cortex is sending information to the motor neurons in the spinal cord, they also give collaterals to the hypothalamus. And from the hypothalamus, a reticular sympathetic activation, cortico-hypothalamo-reticular sympathetic activation. This is a very well known. So now the entire point here is the option A may not be a correct response. So that means it is also a part of the under the control of hypothalamus. If you are looking at a anticipatory during exercise means anticipation of the exercise. Anyway, I include increase in heart rate during exercise. Perhaps I could have framed this question increase in heart rate during the middle of exercise or in the late phase or subsequent phases of exercise. In the beginning of exercise, yes, the cortico-hypothalamo-reticular sympathetic activity is involved. So now this again could be contested. It is left to the candidates and the university to think about and ponder about. So the answer is option A. That's what I just say, but I don't agree with that because cortico-hypothalamo-reticular pathway is known, and you can go and see in Samson Wright. This is well described, and in other books also you may get this information. Question number 19. The nucleus involved in the formation of a peptide circuit. So this is a part of the one part is the mammillothalamic tract. The peptide circuit, the mammillothalamic tract is involved. So that means that we are having option A, pulvinar. Pulvinar is a part of the thalamus. Intralaminar nucleus is a part of the thalamus. It's a non-specific nucleus. The VPL is a somatosensory nucleus. Ventral, posterior, lateral nucleus of thalamus. And anterior nucleus of thalamus. Anterior nucleus of thalamus receives this information. Question number 19. The nucleus involved in the formation of the peptide circuit is anterior nucleus of thalamus. I have shown you the peptide circuit here, the neocortex. This gives the emotion that activates the cingulate cortex, and then to the hippocampus, then the hypothalamus, then comes the thalamus, This is the mammillothalamic tract, and then back to the cingulate cortex. This forms the repeat circuit. The next question is the processing of short-term memory to long-term memory. The consolidation of long-term memory occurs in prefrontal hippocampus, neocortex, amygdala. Consolidation takes place in the hippocampus. The prefrontal cortex is for working memory. The neocortex is the storage of the memory. Amygdala is an emotional memory. Option B is the correct response. Option B is the correct response. You can find this thing both in Genong and the guidance textbook of physiology. As I had going through some of the questions, I have given my personal opinion. Especially, I feel question number 3 and question number 6, and even there are some other 2 questions they can be contested. And question number 3, for me, all options appear true, excepting that mentioned in GK Paul. The increase in plasma noradrenaline level after delivery, but it is not supported by reference. The question number 6 is an anatomy question, since in none of the physiology books it is available. Hence, it is a controversial question. And remaining thing, if you listen to my lecture, you will get what are those controversial questions. Thank you all. Please subscribe to the channel, leave comment in the box, and mention the topic or a question to be discussed. Thank you.